I'm going to sit down. Thanks for coming today. This was Eric's idea, so that's the reason he passed me the microphone, because apparently he's like, we're going to sign you up for this. Hey, here we go.
More shirts.
More shirts.
Why don't we just hand one out to each person?
Yeah, pretty much. Sorry.
These are Hackers for Charity shirts.
That's it.
Thank you, Keith. Can you take the box, please? Thanks a lot. Also, my car needs washed, so we take care of that. So we're here today to talk about the purple team. Does anyone know what the purple team is? What's the purple team? This is worse than one of my classes. I'm gonna plank if you keep this up. That's what I do. Or I'll sit down in the middle of the floor, so they'll go, is he dead?
Do you have your PhD?
Shh, no.
No, we don't have
Okay. But anyway, since this was Eric's idea, I'm Bill Gardner, and I teach.
Oh, that's at the end. That's later. We're making you guys stick around for the whole thing.
I'm Bill Gardner. I teach digital forensics and information assurance at Marshall University. I'm also a pen tester. I have a consulting company. Do web assessments. I can't say words. And penetration testing. And I recently read a book with Valerie Thomas called Building an Information Security Awareness Program. Valerie makes me look very good.
Oh. And now I have to prove it, right? Okay, so I'm Valerie Thomas. I'm the principal security consultant at a company called SecureCon. We're based out of DC. My awesome boss is sitting in the middle there in the Bender shirt. Right, we're always interested in bringing on talent, so if you want to be a pen tester, come see him or me. Either one is fine. So yeah, Bill and I just wrote a book about awareness training, and while I do a lot of offensive work, I still have to be pretty well versed in defensive, because it's not just enough to red team and break into a place and break all of their fun toys. I have to help them fix that. So that's kind of where the purple team starts to come into play. Like it's red is not enough anymore. Blue is not enough anymore. So red and blue together, right? Make purple. I have kids, so you know.
Twin powers activate.
We've been practicing. We don't have our rings. We need rings. But that's next time. Next time we'll get rings.
I've got a million horrible jokes for that. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't need any.
Hi, I'm Amanda Berlin. I do want to be a pen tester when I grow up, so anybody looking for one, sweet. I currently, for the next week, work in healthcare as a purple team. I'm the only member of the purple team currently there. I do, me and my team do all the defensive and infrastructure. And then I run a phishing campaign internally for all of our users. It's like 2,000 or so. And they let me use Metasploit and everything on our live network, and I'm gonna miss that the most, I think. Yeah. Yes, testing and prod is fun.
Use that S&P exec thing in there.
Yes.
The guy that wrote it's kind of
FTW,
but,
yeah.
It's a good
Next.
All right. I'm Eric Milam. I'm the practice manager of the Attack and Pen team at Accuvant Labs. You might know me as Bravo Hacks. So basically, same as these other individuals stated is, when I first started pen testing, it was all about breaking shit. And as you mature as a penetration tester, you realize we're not penetration testers. We're consultants who can pen test. And it's the consulting aspect that makes the most sense, because everything we do offensively is to help the defense of the organization. So me and Martin Boss a long time ago, I think we're unfortunately making fun of a customer, but we came up with the term purple team, and it kind of stuck. But now it's actually a real thing, and I'd like to see it continue to grow as people mature, that the best defenders usually are also the best attackers, and the best attackers know how to, fix shit. So, and I cuss a lot, so I apologize up front.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Brandon McCann. I'm a principal security consultant for Accuvant Labs. I am also on the penetration testing side. I like to focus heavily on advanced phishing techniques. I run a blog with this guy next to me, pentestgeek.com, and I also wrote the phishing frenzy framework. And then, like these guys mentioned, we all play network defense, so that's what this talk's all about.
My name is Royce Davis, and I talk really loud. I work on Eric's team as well, principal consultant, specialize in your garden variety, network penetration testing, red team, social engineering, email phishing, NetPen, that type of stuff.
Nothing special.
Nothing special. I wrote a tool called Jigsaw that was pretty cool for a little while.
The Russian mob.
I like to code in Ruby, written some Metasploit modules, just all kinds of fun InfoSec stuff.
What's your handle?
Ready, I think. Is that right? Is it R3DY? Is that something like that? But, like Eric said, whatever side you're on, red team, blue team, as a consultant, we come into networks and we look at things offensively. We try to identify gaps in security so that we can improve the overall security posture of the organization. We're on the same team as the blue team, where we're all trying to accomplish the same goal, which is to just identify vulnerabilities, identify potential attack vectors, and remediate risk. So, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
I think. So we're going to open it to the floor, or do you want to start with a topic?
We could definitely start somewhere.
What? Yeah.
What do you want us to talk about?
Give me the microphone.
Okay, I was going to say, give us like a...
Hand it over.
So basically, I think the first pain point is that people don't know how to defend against social engineering. I mean, how many people have a security awareness program in their organization? How many people had to invent it themselves? How many people bought it for way too much money? Yeah, that's good. Well, I mean, when Schwartel's not here to heckle us today, like he did, he did Valerie and I last year. But he sells security awareness products, and actually his company does it pretty good. But there's some pretty bad security awareness products. And basically, what I would say is that one size does not fit all. And that's the reason we wrote the book, was so that you can either build your own or buy one as an informed consumer. But wouldn't you first say that the biggest issue we have is that people don't understand that they need to do that in order to build a mature security awareness? I mean, mature security program, or do you think the pain points are different?
Well, we already know my answer to that since I wrote the other half of the book.
The good half.
The good half. I don't know about that. You'll have to read it and tell us who wrote the better half of the book. So I think Bill is spot on. It's not so much about buying whatever appliance is new or whatever program is new with blinky lights or, somebody's picture on it, not naming names. And that's really what we tried to cover in the book, was if you're going to buy a product, if you only have a limited amount of money, here's what you can get for that. Here's where you should put your money. You shouldn't necessarily put your money here. So it really depends on the size of your organization and what your baseline is. So folks that don't really have much of a baseline, that kind of takes a little bit more of a delicate touch, because this is the dawning of a new age, yes? If you have an organization that's not very security aware, that's not going to be an overnight process. So that's my biggest thing is, it's going to take time. Be patient.
I don't know how to follow that. Good job, Valerie.
Sorry.
So yeah, it depends. It depends on what works for your organization. I don't have many points of reference. The only point of reference I have is the one that I implemented. It was amazing to see what we could accomplish with not much money. You know, we didn't pay for one of the blinky light boxes. We, everything that we tried was all open source or something that we built ourselves. And being able to see what we can accomplish with our own ingenuity and our own program, it still worked for us. I mean, if you have no security awareness in your organization at all, I don't think at first you're going to get a lot of use out of one of the paid for solutions unless you don't have anybody on staff that's able to fulfill that role. It's a something that you have to step through. And I think eventually our organization would get there, that we would need something more fine-tuned. But
so from our perspective, we developed what a couple years ago what we felt was a pretty progressive. And when I think of social engineering, of course, first I think of spearfishing, but we do physicals, we do all that type of stuff. But what I think about is when a customer came to me one time, we did a spearfishing campaign and it was successful, and my recommendation to them was, hey, increase your security awareness training, right? Whatever the canned response was, which was total bullshit, and they called me out on it, which was awesome. Basically, they said, we do training every month. This doesn't help me at all in any way, shape, or form. So we just changed the way that we tested, and I got to be honest with you, and I'll let these guys confirm, but only technical controls have really ever stopped us. People are easy to dupe, unfortunately, because of the time that we take on offense to really understand what we're going to need to do. So, when we do physicals, we do recon for a day. We buy I-class badges. We have badge printers. We make all that stuff, and we just know that if we look the part and do that, how can you really defend against that? And most people, oh my God, excuse me. But as I was saying, think about how you train your users. Because if you train your users, hover over the link in the email, do all this stuff. All of our campaigns, they'll work. They're meant to cover all the stuff that you guys are telling them to look for. We're doing all that, right? When you hover over our link, we're not redirecting you anywhere. It's legit, but there's definitely giveaways that happen. But basically, you're gonna have to make sure, like they were saying, that you really train your users and you think about it progressively, because attackers will always adapt.
I need to go out of order for a second.
I want to go out of order next.
Okay. Basically, what you're saying is that only technical solutions stop you guys. So we need to go out and buy the next generation firewall, and it protects you from cyber APT in the cloud.
Did I say cyber?
No, you didn't. I didn't. But I here's what I'd have to say about that is that I don't think. Yeah. Here's what I have to say about that. I understand technical defenses work, but right. But I'd have to say that security is a process, not a destination. And even you doing spearfishing on your own organization or as a part of assessment is part of education. And I would say that their problem wasn't that they had a security awareness program, that they didn't have an engaging one, because there's a big difference between an engaging one and, here, watch this video and then take this test. Most people will try to click through the test and try to use the law of averages because they want to go out and get for the coffee break, and they don't get anything out of them. So there's things that you have to do. I think it's not just build a security awareness program. You have to build an engaging one.
It's always the carrot, not the stick.
And you have to make it like an advertising campaign. it has to be continual. It can't be even once a month's pretty amazing, but it has to be continual. I think Valerie wanted to say something.
Give me the mic. Give me the mic. No. I'm closer. I'm closer, right? Royce is never getting this mic again. So.
You can drop a mic, but you don't have one.
Right. So I agree with Bill's points, and I agree with some of Eric's points, and I think that mostly Eric's points, but he's my co-author. Right? Yeah. But let me get off my soapbox first. Then you can ask questions.
But we still we're contractually bound for the rest of our life. So.
Right. In one way or another. Anyway, moving on. I don't think that. Right? He has no idea. I don't think that technology alone is enough anymore, and I don't think that training alone is enough anymore. All of our attacks that are mature, whether they're planned, like we do them on a red team, or a nation-state planned, they blend both of those attack surfaces. So until we start training, until we start targeting blended attacks, we'll never be able to defend against them, because that's not what we're looking for.
All right, so I really like the purple team concept because it's something that we've tried to implement in our organization. And working both sides of the street, I get to see both sides of it. So bringing that into our organization was a huge part of it. Sun Tzu said in the 1600s that you can't be a good defender without understanding offense, and you can't be a good offense without understanding defense. So going back to Eric, when he said the penetration test, he goes, boom, 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 we got in, and the client says, well, great, that report did us no fucking good. Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm. Now what?
How do we fix it?
Now what?
There is a movement in the penetration testing organizations to begin helping defenders start actually fixing. Don't just give us a report saying this is what's wrong.
No.
I'm
not done yet.
No.
I'm not done yet.
I'm not done. So a lot of
Hold on, Bill. Slow your roll.
A lot of organizations need to now start moving from not just relying on penetration testers to come and do something for them, but actually start building a purple team concept within their organization. There used to be tiger teams in some companies, big organizations. All organizations now need to encourage a hacker mindset within their organization to start testing the boundaries of what they can do before they go hire a penetration tester. It doesn't do an organization any good to hire a penetration testing company to come in and go, hey, boom, we popped all your boxes we got in here. Do some initial analysis on your own organization before you spend the money on a penetration test.
So the one thing that I'd be worried about.
And that goes to the spear phishing cons within your organization.
Right.
It goes to testing your own networks. It goes to running Metasploit within your own company and finding out what's going on before you spend the thousands of dollars. Have some idea so that when they, as a defender, when they come and say, here's what we did, it's not lost information. Right. And as a penetration testing company, stay and spend those extra couple of days or whatever to help. This is what we did. Now here's how you can fix it.
Right, but not every company has that talent in-house.
And I'm concerned that people are.
Move to hire that talent.
Well, I'm concerned people are going to get spread too thin too, right? So.
Things will not change
we-
overnight.
Are we even using the mic?
Yeah, fuck the mic.
Change will not happen overnight. I'll just scream real loud.
Stan?
All right, go ahead.
All right, so I think these guys have brought up a lot of great points, and
Turn our mic way up.
social engineering is not going anywhere anytime soon. You know, like Eric mentioned, phishing is one of the prime ones, and we've heard user awareness programs, and we've heard technical controls. Well, in my opinion, nothing's 100%. You can have the greatest, most effective user awareness program, and you can have the greatest technical controls in place, but ultimately we know ways to circumvent those, and we know it only takes one user. So, you know, phishing doesn't cost, a hacker anything. So they're going to send blindly, and again, it only takes one. In my experiences, I think that, I'm going to sound pretty vague or generic, but it's a multi-layered approach. You hope to have a user awareness program in place. You hope to have enough technical controls that one of them gets triggered or that something gets alerted that you can investigate it. And you hope that those things in place will, trigger your incident response so that you can hopefully, mitigate the risk before it really gets out of hand. But in my experiences, I think that some of the best stuff I've seen has really been engraved into the culture. So the user awareness program really was in the culture. So there was some sort of incentive. So if you found a phishing email and you forward that to the help desk, you would get some sort of compensation or go into a lottery and get,
Following the process.
Exactly. So, first thing, you got to have a process. You got to have something in place so they know what to identify. And when they do, you got to reward them because, otherwise, why are they going to go and do something that really isn't their role or responsibility? And then, things like physical testing, think about when you're in your corporate office, you're walking around and you go to the bathroom and you don't know that guy. How often do you really question them? People aren't confrontational. Why? It's not your role or responsibility to go, what the hell are you doing here? Who are you? People don't want to question. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's really easy for people just to put their head down, go and do their work. And, that's why this is a challenge. It's a great topic and it's not going away anytime soon.
Let's give it to Rory.
Give me that. I have something to say. Pretty much. I mean, everybody listed some really great points, and I really like the question that the gentleman pointed out, which is that organizations taking some effort to just learn about their network before doing a pen test or any type of security engagement, that's really effective. To Eric's point, I got to agree with him. All the times that I've been stopped in cold in social engineering or specifically an email phishing attack has been because of technical controls. And I'm not referring to a super expensive blinky light box that someone paid for, but things that you can do for free if you just understand your network and you understand the operating systems and controls that are in place. Things like egress filtering that prevented the user's shell from getting back to my box. Things like application whitelisting that didn't allow them to download untrusted binaries and execute them. Things like taking away local administrator rights from users so that even if I could get a shell, I couldn't privilege escalate into other systems. Those types of things, those types of controls really help in combination with a good, strong security user awareness program. Like Brandon said, having that baked into the culture, that really helps as well. So. And also, no.
I got,
You did get scared.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're just going to pass the mic over Eric for the next hour.
So I kind of want to touch on a little bit that Brandon did. That's as far as the awards-based user education. That's where we made the biggest leap. The first time I fished any of our users, I targeted 1,000 of them. I got 600 usernames and passwords. And it was a shitty attempt too. Complete plain text, a link. When you hovered, it told you that it wasn't going to the right place. And it was from a Gmail address. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. And they still all clicked on it and gave me their usernames and passwords. After that, then our C-levels were like, holy shit, maybe we should do something about this. And then we started to do the awards base. So, just like he mentioned, if you teach them that it's not a bad thing to report anomalies, they're going to report it more often. They have an incentive. They're like, hey, look at this. I just got this awesome gift card or whatever. It's going to spread by word of mouth. You're not going to have to do much marketing. We do it once a month, and it's amazing at how much headway we've gained. I think we went from 60% being phished and 0 reports to 2% being phished and 25% reports. It's amazing. I totally agree that we need. You're right. Always just need something in your hand.
Whoa.
And I'm done.
Moving on. That's not what I was going to talk about.
I have no idea what I was going to say from earlier.
You're welcome.
Right? Mission was successful. Let me get on my soapbox first, and then I will do questions. 2 or 3. Okay.
I have. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Right? Give this woman a round of applause.
Thank you, Jaded Security.
Well, Razor gave a talk on that last year at DerbyCon.
Right.
He was right, and I have never done it. However, I understand in a business environment, you have attachments that are seemingly to be sent from upper-level management and stuff. But don't you have
Go ahead.
You can wait to sell your shit.
I can help you. Meet me out back after talk.
Personally, we do. We have a lot of technical controls. We actually have a home built Linux box that controls all of our mail filtering from the outside. Our last pen test, we actually. Our last, well, only for a week. We actually stopped our last pen test with those technical controls and had to scale them back so our users could be tested. There's antivirus, there's blacklisting, there's graylisting, there's all these different technical controls that you can have in place, as well as teaching them if you're not expecting it or it looks odd, or if now we have people reporting. I mean, you can't have them reporting too much, but they signed up for a mailing list or something, and they're like, "Oh my God, that they're trying to phish me." No, you signed up for it, but it's better. Correct. Change credit card companies. Right. Yes. Yes. They are. And it's common, unfortunately. Who's next?
I'm gonna let Brandon talk here. Sorry. I'm gonna hand it off to Brandon, but specifically to your point about are there things that catch it? We'll let Brandon tell you about how we actually do it so it doesn't get caught.
Yeah, I think the question's great. Isn't there spam filters in place like that? And it's a great concept, but it's kind of a flawed design. So spam filters really are based off of a threshold. It's not a black and white. You get to determine your threshold. You get to determine what type of things up the threshold, and eventually when you hit a point system, it goes into spam filter. So it's not real black and white. And us as penetration testers, we understand those type of technical controls you have in place. So some things that will flag spam filters, for example. Let's say, working from home. Subject lines, things like that, domains and stuff. So when I'm doing phishing, I will register a valid domain name. And when I buy that domain name, I will configure MX records, which makes my domain name able to basically accept emails. So when a spam filter receives an email from me, the first thing it probably looks at is, hey, does this domain have an MX record? And I do. And the reason it's going to look at that is because why would any spam filter allow in email to a domain that doesn't have an MX record? Because that is what's required to reply and get the email back. Other things like sender policy framework. There's other mitigating controls like SPF, which basically you can configure on your domain. So we can say, hey, this is my mail server. When I send email on behalf of this domain, it will come from this specific, IP address or this mail server. So when we buy the domain, we also send up sender policy framework. So your fancy technology like spam filters, when they're looking up my domain, everything checks out perfect. And so that threshold is really low. I'm basically valid email at that time. And you brought up, what about attachments and things like that? So my emails typically don't include attachments because I know you have antivirus scanning it before it ever gets put into an inbox. And I know that attachments typically bring up the threshold. So my emails are very generic. They contain text and a link. And what I want to do is I want to link them to a website where they're going to have to download something malicious. And again, you might have a web proxy server in place where you don't allow downloads on your network, right? Well, if we do this properly and we configure HTTPS with SSL, a lot of firewalls, majority of the firewalls, can't see inside that SSL tunnel. So maybe you have a policy in place to block the downloads, but we have an encrypted tunnel and your fancy firewall can't see inside that tunnel. Therefore, it doesn't know you're downloading malicious content. And now we've got malicious content on your user's workstation. And essentially at that time, we've bypassed a lot of technical controls. And again, it's all about how many technical controls you have in place, because maybe we got all the way to that place, but like he mentioned, application whitelisting. So my binary doesn't match what's allowed, and boom, my attack gets stopped. So it's all about layers, and it's all about, from our perspective, understanding what type of layers might stop us, and we do things on purpose to try to bypass those technical controls.
Yeah, the great thing about the way we fish, and the way probably most people should, is we are testing every control along the way. We're testing the people. Are they going to click the link? We're testing the AV that exists on the system. We're testing, are they actually following the process? I mean, how many times have you gotten an email that you thought was malicious, and instead of calling the help desk, you called your buddy in IT, right? And that's totally outside the process. So, we're testing the people there and the technologies associated with it. Here, I think this points to you, Valerie.
Why, thank you, Eric. Have a drink.
We better let him talk.
Next panel.
I'm
We will.
going to
Okay.
Next panel, I'm doing by myself. Let me make one point, and I will not say anything else the rest. Well,
We all heard that, right? Okay.
2 things. 1,
Right. Wait.
when you talk about layers, what we're talking about here and what Eric's talking about is testing the fence in depth. You're not going to keep everyone from getting in your network, but you need to be able to detect and get them out of your network before they take anything valuable.
Yeah, phishing is not about stopping the fish. It's stopping the exfiltration of malware, because that's what's going to happen if you get fished.
Yes, and so they're not running off with your Active Directory domain credits and it's a secret formula for Coke. So you think about what you're protecting.
It's the Coca plants, baby.
It was an aspirin factory, right?
You can't give it away if I step on the cord.
No. I was to say.
Point number 2.
The other thing is you have to think about the people that you're training. It's not all just user awareness training. It's also, don't forget the IT department. They may not be savvy enough as far as awareness training to understand what it is. So they have to have awareness training as well. And they also have to understand that you have policies and procedures in place to help them. I've been in organizations where, they thought I was there to get them fired. And I'm like, no, I'm here to help you, not to get you fired. But people
need to feel empowered.
Right. People need to feel empowered from the top down. So it's not just users, it's also managers, it's also the IT department. I'm sorry, I'll just have to keep this.
Can we move on to another topic?
Give it back. I have one small success story, and then we'll move on. Okay, so I do a lot of phishing assessments and external pen tests and whatnot. And I had a recent one. It was for a critical infrastructure provider. So this should help everybody sleep a little bit better tonight, because you might actually have power, because that's awesome. So client was an electrical distributor. And they hired me to come in and do a phishing assessment. But they are so active in their awareness program that they're phishing people every week, right? So they're on top of this all the time. So they're doing the awareness, they're doing the testing, they have the technology in place. So when I bought my domain and I registered my SSL certificate and I used the MX record, everything lines up technically. I'm like, sweet, all right, let's go. So 4 emails. That's all I sent. 4 emails, 3 shells. I'm like, ooh. I thought you said you had a good awareness program. I just got a 75% success rate. So I'm doing my happy root dance, right? While I'm checking out the network, I'm like, this is awesome. Look at this machine, look at that machine. 10 minutes in, all of the shells drop. I'm like, what is this? And I want my shells back. I'm looking and checking all my stuff. User number 4, 25%, called it in. This email looks strange. I don't know this person. Reported it. So in 10 minutes, they reported, and then they used the technology that they had in place, right? Trace it on Exchange, they used their endpoint technology to pull those machines off the network. Like they just lit and took the machines. So when you put this program together properly, it really does work. But you have to have the people and the technology together. So this is Val's little secret of awareness training. The point of awareness training is to train your user base to identify something that looks unusual and to ask for help. Right? You're not supposed to train them to be a security professional. That's your job. They just need to know how to be a rockin' accountant and be able to spot something that looks a little strange and call and get some help. Now we can move on.
All right. Make one comment before you move on?
You can.
Awesome.
But I will hand this over.
So we'd like to be able to hear you.
So, I'm sorry. So, Bill, you started to allude to, and I guess it's really a critical point that a lot of the social engineering attacks and pen testing don't really detail. There's lack of impact. We get shells, we get usernames, we get passwords. It's like, big fucking deal, which is what the C-levels are pretty much going to say when they get the reports. It's like, big fucking deal. You got 20 shells, you got usernames, passwords, but we're not really detailing, like, impact. A lot of I know you do. I know you do. But a lot of other companies, we see the reports. It's just like, who the did this? It's like, oh, you got shells. That's great. We got usernames, passwords. That's great. But what'd you do? Like, how is this actually impacting our bottom line? So, I think part of that is right. That's part of the issue. Whereas we're doing this work, we're spending 30, 40 billable hours. We're writing up these cool reports and pie charts and graphs and shit and, high, medium, lows. And we're not actually saying, this is how we're going to fuck you.
Yeah. So.
Give this guy the mic again.
We may be NC-17 now.
So. Yeah. So I agree with Keith, but the problem is you guys. If you're our customers and you're not letting us do it, that's on you. It's not my fault because I will go as far as you want me to go, and usually within 20 minutes of getting a shell, I've got your ntds.dit local on my system, and I've got Hashcat fired up, and I'm cracking it. Or I'm in looking for PII or PHI. Because like Keith was saying, the real impact that we want to show is we want to show you how quick and how devastating it is to gain access to your sensitive information and get it exfiltrated from your network. It's just not about getting in. It's about finding it and getting it out. So, again, there's more layers of defending against that. So I wanted to move the topic on because this is actually a question that I really want an answer from you guys because we do this all the time, and it's and I always wondered. So when I pen test an organization, I'm going to speak for you guys too. When we pen test an organization, when we pen test, what I am looking for personally is I want to find the domain admin service account that you have not changed in 20 years, because I know that if I grab a hold of that account that you have no fucking clue what it does, and you are not going to change the password, and you're not going to shut it down. And it's good to show that that's a liability because you change your user passwords every 90 days, but I guarantee your service accounts don't get changed but maybe once. And they might still have a landman hash even on the domain controller. That's how old they are. So
It's endemic of an overall issue. There's a problem in that company or an organization where the processes don't include that.
I'm talking about 99% of organizations, though, is the problem. Yeah, that's yes, yeah.
It's almost pandemic.
Broke XYZ app when we changed the password last time. We can't change it again.
So my question is, would anybody out here be able to know if your domain admin went rogue, and how? Okay.
And how? So I'm not a salesperson, but we use Netrix.
Never heard of it.
No?
We're vendor agnostic.
All right. So.
She's like, oh.
Well, shit.
Yeah, it's my company. I wrote it.
I don't write stuff. So if you get the username and password, we can't tell. But if you create a domain admin, we can tell.
Create.
Yes. So we've had pen testers create, so we can tell that within a couple minutes. But it's
cut their eye out with a spoon if they put it.
Yeah.
An
Oh
account
yeah.
on your
Oh
domain,
yeah.
because you can never-
And then
Follow-up question to Eric's point. Could you tell if that domain administrator logged into 500 systems?
No.
in 60 seconds?
no, because the sim we have blows. So there's a couple. Well, I think if you have an IDS IPS sim type device that is configured correctly and reporting correctly, and yes, exactly.
It's about stuff you can do with Active Directory.
Yes, yes.
be able to do it easier.
Well,
with
here's
something else.
the
But-
main thing is it's a valid person doing exactly what's expected on your network. How do you know that they're not doing
Yes,
something
exactly. And you're definitely on point about the whole we can't change the domain. I mean,
Yeah.
I have some really,
The
really,
judgment.
really bad horror
I call that
stories,
out.
and I mean, we're
You are depressing me.
me or him.
I thought this was about empowering people. All you are doing is depressing me.
Over the last 3 years, we went to the point where we had a 4-character domain admin password
No,
that hadn't been changed in 10 years
Right.
to being able to change it every 60 days.
So how do we detect? Let's talk about how.
How
we
to detect? I
Because
don't
if
know.
I bring that up to the customer, I want to take what you guys tell me and give them a valid solution other than, especially if it's someone who actively works there and if they've gone rogue,
I go
what to
back
look
to
for.
the awareness thing where the people who run your network have to understand what their
The guy who runs your network has gone rogue, is what I'm saying. How do you detect that
Then
guy?
you're screwed.
Well, there's got to be a way. I mean, all hope is not lost, despite what Slipknot
You really
says.
need a system of checks and balances. You can't allow in any organization, you can't allow any one person to have that much power. There needs to be a series of checks and balances. There
Okay.
needs to be another user that audits that person's access. I mean, there needs to be a
That's
rule.
a lot of paperwork.
I mean, then we have an auditor of an auditor of an auditor. You raised your hand and you said you had a solution, so I'm interested to hear. Oh. Policies and procedures
Are
not gonna
different
stop
from
me
technical
logging in over
controls.
445.
I think what she's saying is you write a policy that says she's talking about the admin password.
The service thing, absolutely,
The
yes.
problem, I would
problem
also say, because we have an example of this in my hometown. The guy ended up at a big vendor that recently got popped.
Do they
he
sell
found
hardware?
He found out he was, well, actually they do. He found out he was getting fired, so he went through and wrecked the network before they could disable his credentials.
That's a
How did they
federal
detect
offense as
that?
well. Yeah.
They detect that because shit didn't work.
Yeah.
That's how
Well,
they detected
yeah.
that.
So the problem with this that drives it is that most organizations don't have the purple team. They don't have an individual from the red team that says, if I want to do the most harm to this network, this is what I'm going to do. Let's sit down and write a rule that looks for this activity from these sources that will fire and inform the people that need to be informed.
Like the domain administrator logged in at 2 a.m. and exfiltrated 12 gigs of
Yes.
data off the domain controller. Does anybody have a rule for that?
Yes.
They should.
Wow.
It's the Edward Snowden rule.
It's just when you have somebody that you trust, how do you know when you can no longer trust them on your network? So Edward
What's
Snowden
problem is
but-
we don't trust each other enough to share the type of information that needs to be shared in order to put controls in place to stop that. And that's why a lot of blue teams are sucking when it comes to being contested, is because they don't know the true vital attack vectors that the red teamers are going to take, or the red teamers aren't allowed to perform those true hardcore attack vectors.
And that's what we're talking about is everything we do, defense or offense, is really to make the organization better. So we need to make sure we're sharing that type of stuff.
No, I was just going to say, the rogue IT employee is just an example. It could be the same thing. That IT employees got compromised and someone's got their clear text password. So it's not related to trust. It's just related to these powerful accounts and how can you detect anomalies with these powerful accounts like we've been talking about.
I think that should be our talk for next year's DerbyCon.
Those accounts should be the most heavily audited. They should be the most heavily logged.
You can do things to those accounts as well. Like, so those accounts that haven't changed in 20 years, I sure hope, if you've done things like configure them as a service account so they can't do interactive login elsewhere. Nothing's 100%, but I hope you are at least, understanding that they are a risk. You're never trying to lock them down.
Yeah, so there's a question in the back. I was doing my Phil Donahue, but I don't think I could go that far.
None of these kids know who Phil Donahue is. put them on your network in the first place.
The question is, how do you combat crypto locker or a threat like that?
Well, they have all the CryptoLocker keys are available now, so it doesn't really matter, right?
Not
Until the next one.
I created mine with Rot 13.
Hush. Hush.
It would never be broken.
There were CryptoLocker like GPOs, but what a pain in the ass to configure. As being the only person that touches group policy in our organization, I was having to add every rev of Java as a whitelist. That's all I have to say about it. No.
Yes, I have.
I haven't personally seen it, but I know. I mean,
I've heard of it, yeah.
You've seen it.
I haven't seen it in the enterprise.
So that also leads to a big thing that we always call out too is network segmentation. Yes. How many? I mean, that's the number one thing we call out on every single engagement. Oh, not only can I get to your CEO's desktop from plugging in here in the conference room, I can get to your net apps, your net filers, all that stuff. All the bad stuff. So that's definitely one of the things where we take advantage of and if someone in, let's say going back to phishing, if someone in HR is phished, do you have segmentation in place? That's one of the steps, the defense in depth, right? That we need to look at.
And he's absolutely right. Segmentation will really do a lot. The other thing I have to say is we just released a project today that will basically monitor each one of those segments for threats that get behind the firewall, called Network Scout. Check it out. It runs on Raspberry Pi. It was, yeah, it's completely student researched, but check it out. But a lot of it is, one thing is not going to protect you from everything. It's all this together as a process. But really, listen, you guys, you're almost depressing me. I mean, it's like there's no end. Security awareness won't work.
It's not that it won't work. It's that, as you guys know, it's not implemented properly.
Damn table. I think
Yeah, let me.
So we talk about user awareness, we talk about technical controls, and there's one thing in common with both of those, and those are an after fact. That's something that we do after the organization has been developed, after the IT systems, the infrastructure has been designed, and now we're trying to sort of put these Band-Aids on these flaws that were built to begin with.
So we bitch about security being that way, like security applications, right?
Yeah. So I think, one of the key things when you're doing any type of information security testing and you're talking about recommendations is really looking at the system from a whole and are there areas to redesign, are there areas to go back? Obviously, if you're an internal blue teamer or a network defender and the pen tester comes in and says you need to redesign your whole network, obviously you throw your hands up and you say, well, that's going to take way too much effort and way too much money. We can't do that. But, certain things like just network segmentation, I mean, just having ACLs and making it so that if I do sneak into the conference room because I printed a fake badge and I plug in, I can't get anywhere. Those types of things are going to make much more of an impact than even the most robust user awareness training or the robust technical controls out there. Go ahead.
I think Bill's depression is maybe.
It's been a part of his life for a long time.
Maybe not the best outlet because working both sides of the street, as a penetration tester or even the attackers, they know they're always going to get in. There's going to be some flaw in the network. As a defender, you cannot have a perfect system. It's not going to happen. There is going to be a weakness somewhere. Maybe the user, it may be a technical control. It may be something completely unknown. It may not even be one of the known unknowns. It may be completely unknown. You won't know what the next attack vector is going to be. Nobody saw the shell shock vulnerability coming. People have been using Bash for decades.
Oh, I saw it. I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it. I saw that coming. And what was it? Heartbleed? I saw that too. Yeah.
So you don't know
all about
what
that.
those unknowns are. The attacker's always going to have the advantage. So getting depressed as a defender, getting depressed about defense, you can't get depressed about that. You can only do the best that you can with the known situation and the budget you're given and the people you're given. And then know that in the event that something happens, and in all likelihood it will, do you have a good enough incident response To deal with that.
Correct. Are you going to keep them at bay long enough that you detect something and are able to react? But it's a horrible thing to say, but we always do say it, and I think everybody agrees. A defender has to defend every fucking possible way into. Attacker only needs one. But in order to lift Bill's spirits, I want to tell a success story of one of our customers. Yeah, that's right. And this is actually a true story. So, does anybody know Martin Boss, Pure Hate? Yeah. So he's an okay pen tester, right? So he had done this customer the year before, and then it got assigned to me this year, and he's like, good fucking luck, right? So we always normally say things like, hey, if I've got physical control of an asset, it's game over, things like that. So I can't mention who they are or what they do, but I can tell you that they had the most secure network in the world. They're not in security. They're not in nuclear fission or anything like that. But it actually made me cry. I got nowhere and did nothing. And it was awesome, though, because now I have something where I can say, Mr. Customer, you can't bitch and complain. These people did it over here. Yeah, well, they've got 3,000 people, but what they've done is scalable. And what they did was they used tools like BitLocker and all the free Microsoft shit. But they understood their network. They understood their people. And they implemented it, and they also got carte blanche buy-in above. I think that's another thing too, is as a lot of IT people don't really show the value.
We talk about that in the book,
right?
Getting, management buy-in, and that's the first step in building information security. Mature.
And I think that's why we've been so successful.
Yeah,
is because we have such good buy-in from up front.
And most people really don't care about security until they've been breached, and that's the bad
right.
Well,
be proactive, not reactive.
Brought up impact, right? One of the things we can do in the red team to help out with that is to provide really strong reports that not just say, hey, I popped your box, I got these shells, you have these vulnerabilities, but to really communicate a picture of what this means to your business and just how catastrophic it is that you have JBoss with admin sitting on the internet. That's something that we can do to help to get, funding and to get buy-in from, the high-level management, right? And get managed.
It's sad that a lot of times they say we have to use you to push our own message forward.
We get that. We get that all the time. Clients are saying, I've been telling management we want to do X, Y, Z, and then we come in and we tell them to do X, Y, Z, and then next year they got the budget. So yeah, a lot of people are very happy for us to come in and do that type of testing because they use us as leverage. They need an outsider to tell them that.
I always love when I ask I ask every customer before I start the pen test, what is the one thing that I could do to make this an absolute slam dunk for you? And I always love, and it's rare, but I love when they respond, scare the shit out of my manager. If you could scare the shit out of my manager, that would be the best thing you could do. And I always feel good about that because I know that not only is it going to be fun for me, but hopefully I can actually provide some value and actually, so that's always good.
I didn't even know. Are we done?
I think we're done.
Yeah, probably. Instant films.
Any more
We
questions?
wouldn't have anything to talk about.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. We're all a bunch of talkers. We all gab.
Any more questions?
Anybody?
Oh, two. I don't know which hand went up first.
The man in the black shirt.
It's you in the black t-shirt. Not firing them.
No. So the one that we went with, we were given a budget of $1,000, right? Which doesn't seem like a whole lot when you consider what people pay for this type of program from the outside. We did we give away $20 to 2 people every month. Every quarter, it's like $40, and then we have an end of the year price for $400.
Do you make it more difficult?
Yes, yeah. Throughout the, I've been doing it for 9 months now. We just started in January, and each time it gets a little bit more difficult for them to realize that it's from the inside. And not only do they get put in the little drawing for when it comes from internally, if they catch something from the outside, they also get put in.
I was joking about not firing them, but on the flip side, you have to.
And they are worried about that.
You have to have some disincentive for them to do it, but generally what you'll find is it's easier to be nice about it
Extremely.
than it is to be strict.
Always
about
the
it.
carrot, never the stick.
Yep.
Right.
Always.
Gamification works.
All right. Other question?
Okay, so going back on the, I guess, tracking your users and configuration management, you can use like open source Puppet and like Logstash to kind of monitor that changing.
I'm not smart enough to know what that is. What is that? Puppet? Okay.
That's interesting.
Awesome. I'm going to sell
I
it to
like
my
that.
customer. I got a botnet for you. I won't put it on your network. But I was going to save you, I swear. Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
I know. Yeah, I can get around version control every time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you tell my boss.
Building process and process and procedures, which Mary was talking about. Process and procedures are huge. You have to have a process and a policy for everything.
And a control.
And a control.
Yeah.
And then you test the control. That's the purpose of penetration.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't bring us in and have us do low-hanging fruit that your admins, your scanners have already picked up, like Tomcat.
It's not
That's
not
not
worth
what
it.
you need for a pen test.
I think we're getting the
All right, we're done.
STFU sound.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.